Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Recap, a guy's review. Last night was Clayton Eckert's Fantasy Suite episode. We're going to get into it, break down. Here's how I do it. I take notes, I read them back to you. No edits, no jump cuts, just me, you, maybe a couple jokes, maybe some heartbreak. We will have to see. Alrighty, let's do it. Clayton boards a flight to Iceland. They didn't have to wear masks. Because it's the Fantasy Suites, baby, the ultimate super spreader event. All right, let's get right into it. This is why tourist departments pay big money to get Bachelor to visit their regions, because it looks beautiful, even though the women will be stuck in this one room, which kind of resembles the intro to every porn you've ever watched. It's beautiful in Iceland, though. Volcanoes are erupting. We haven't seen volcanoes erupt like that since Monday night's Women Tell All episode. Looking at you, all the ladies in the dais, is that what it's called? The group of ladies yelling at everyone. Clayton says, "I'm so excited to see these women." Then it cuts to three women sitting quietly on a couch as if they're in line for their booster shots. And maybe they are in line for their booster shots of love. Clayton will be administering the needle, if you know what I mean. Ew, David. Jesse Palmer arrives from 30 women down to 3. All 3 of the finalists seem to really like each other, so while they must hate the position they're in, there's no rage, kind of like a Sean Booth, Nick Viall. There's none of that. There's kind of 3 women that respect each other and know that they're in for a torturous week. Why does The Bachelor put them all together? By the way, The Bachelor puts them all together, right? Which is really horrible psychologically for a ton of reasons, something they probably didn't really sign up for. And then afterwards, when The Bachelor wants to separate them and quarantine them so that they could like surprise them, they do that. It's like, we need to unionize the ladies. Can we at least get them all in the same group chat so they can share notes? Rachel gets the first date, Fantasy Suites. There it is. Are they supposed to be about taking the clothes off, but they're all wearing long johns because they're out there in the cold? Nothing sexier than long johns. You ever try to hook up after a night out in the cold? You're taking long johns off. You're trying to pull off somebody's wool sock. You know what I mean? It's like just taped to their knees. All right, they take they take a helicopter tour, which looks so epic. They didn't notice because they were kissing the whole time. Hey, shout out to Megan Mast. She just subscribed. If you subscribe while I'm making a video, it pops up above my head. So yeah, the tour looks epic. Clayton takes Rachel inside a volcano. This might be the coolest date I can remember. I thought it was a pretty cool date. Rachel says she pushed herself to be open and vulnerable and doesn't know if she can go into Fantasy Suites, not knowing where Clayton is. Of course, they always have this quasi-fabricated resistance. I'd love to know Bachelor Data's thoughts on how often a Fantasy Suite date is refused, because it's not refused too often. I may be foreshadowing. Clayton says he has something weighing on him, hasn't been transparent with her family. He says he wishes he told her earlier. Then he says, "I'm falling in love with you." Good play. This was a good play. They must get coached by the producers to say like, all right, pretend like you're breaking up and then say I'm in love with you. Nothing says I love you like deceit. Says he hasn't felt these feelings in 5 or 6 years. So that's nice. That's the first I love you count. It's the one day a year we get to say the word forego. Don't you love this? Rachel decides to forego her lame basic economy hotel room for the Fantasy Suite. Meanwhile, Susie is not happy about this. She can feel it in her bones vicariously. And Rachel can feel it in her bones too. Ew, David. We get the tour of the Fantasy Suite. They basically are just touring the different areas that they want to pump their Palmers, right? They're like, and this is the kitchen. Here's the laundry room. Here's the spin cycle we'll be doing it on top of. Can I get some tumble dry action? Meanwhile, Susie says, if Clayton thinks it's me at the end of this and he sleeps with other women, I'll have a hard time moving forward with him. And we're all like, no, oh boy, this is not going to go well. He can't hear you in your testimonials. And sure enough, there's Clayton doing some push-up routines there on the memory foam. Meanwhile, so we got that out of Susie. Rachel and Clayton do the morning after canoodling. Rachel says intimacy is important in a relationship. It was a good night. That's all I have to say. Whenever anyone says that's all I have to say, they're saying a lot. As Clayton walks away, they scream, "I love you." Susie says, "I'm not going to pry about what they did." They're like, "Yeah, we're not going to pry about what happened." And then Rachel arrives and she's like, "Wait, what did you do?" "I don't want to pry." "Hey, how did it go? What were you up to?" "Oh yeah, volcanoes." Okay. You must have been pretty tired after that volcano. Probably just went straight to bed, right? Yeah. Rachel says there was this giant volcanic eruption, but enough about the fantasy suites. All right. Gabby turns. Gabby goes, I wanted the Icelandic cruise. And she got the goofy four-wheel date. That's what you get for being the fun-loving one. You get the fun-loving date. If you're the fun one in the house, you're going to end up in a yurt, okay? Gabby says she wants Clayton to explore his options because... No, I'm sorry. I said Gabby, but I believe this was Susie says she wants Clayton to explore his options because if then still he chooses her, she will know that she is the one. So we have these sort of semantics going on, saying, you explore all your options. And then we go, well, we should have said, define options. What do we mean by that? Are we talking the option to... fully round the bases, or are we talking read poetry to each other? I'd like to know the details. And I'm sure moving forward, if anyone watches the show, moving forward, they're going to be defining these options way closer. Clayton is wearing an orange turtleneck. Let's see if I have a photo of that orange turtleneck. I guess I don't. It's in there somewhere. It doesn't matter. Clayton's wearing an orange turtleneck. He looks like a traffic cone you'd see at a Gold's Gym because he's strong. At the dinner date, Clayton tells Gabby he's falling in love with her. So that's not exactly in love, but he says falling in love. Meanwhile, we have Susie here, walks down a spiral staircase and says, I'm spiraling emotionally. That was a good fun play on words. Made my fiance laugh. Gabby's morning after. Let's go to the morning after. There she is. Oh boy. She says it felt fun. No pressure. Didn't feel like a first time. We can tell. Look at your hair. Clayton yells, I'm falling in love and it feels so good. Well, get back to us in an hour. Gabby arrives back to the female homestead. They are analyzing her hair. Does it look too rough? Does she have bags under her eyes? She's like, you look nice. Let me smell your breath. Give me your breath. Open your mouth up and breathe on me. Time for Susie's date. Oh boy, we got Susie's date next. Geothermal hot spring. I got to tell you, this is sexy. As much as I love the volcano date, this might be one of the coolest dates as well. Not a good idea to do a cold plunge before the fantasy suites. Trust me on this one. I used to do the polar bear plunge on New Year's Day. That's like when you in Rhode Island, you'd go swimming in the ocean, and it's like the ocean's like literally like 33 degrees. And let me tell you something, me get coldy innies. Not a good idea. Women will never understand that our sex organ can literally retreat. Hopefully, like the Russians in the Ukraine war right now, will retreat back to their homeland. My little guy can retreat, and if the conditions are right, that's like saying, "Oh boy, hold on," and because it's got to be self-regulated. Okay, too much information. We all know that, right? We all know that. It's just funny that like our whole being is built around that, and then all of a sudden it's like, but the temperature wasn't right. Like, how did we make it so far in life that we're like these just sentient, just like a mass? We're like the mass, like a humanity, right? We're so much better than, but then all of a sudden it was like a little too cold. We're like, oh no, not for me, not today. Anyway, I digress. To be fair, it looked like a pretty sexy and relaxing evening date. Susie brings out a winning green dress. She sure does. And this is how you seal the deal. Do I have a photo of the green dress? There it is. Oh, that's how you seal the deal. Clayton tells Susie he's in love with her. She looks shocked. I think she's happy. Susie says, have you slept with another woman? She says, these are the things that make it impossible to move forward with an engagement. He's like, it's almost like if you've been in a job interview for 4 weeks, and then at the end of the job interview, they're like, oh yeah, if you don't have a college degree, we can't hire you. And you're like, you should have told me that at the beginning of the job interview. If I'm sharing your love with someone else, she says, I don't think it'd be comfortable. Clayton says, I understand that thought process. Clayton says, I thought you wanted me to explore. He tells Susie he slept with someone else. And yes, I've expressed feelings of falling in love. Boy, what a roundabout say to wear that. I've expressed feelings of falling in love. This looks like how the Falcons must have felt when they were up 28-3 then lost to the Patriots. He thought he had it in the bag. He was already printing the Super Bowl rings. Clayton says he told himself he wouldn't fall in love with multiple women, but it happens. He says he has different feelings for different people. Susie says, I don't want to give you an ultimatum, but you did. That's what it is. Clayton says, had I known this was a deal breaker, I would have changed things. I'll give my opinion after I kind of get through this. He doesn't want to throw this away. Susie says she needs somebody who would have thought through that. Clayton is getting mad. Clayton says he made love with the other person because he was in love with them too and wanted to explore that. He says he freaked out. He cried about it. It scares him. Clayton says this is shattering him. Why wouldn't you have told me this earlier on? Now she tells him after the fact, Good point, Clayton. How could she do that? Clayton goes Hulk mode. This is exactly what I was afraid of. They pulled Jesse out of his trailer. Clayton vents to Jesse. Clayton is pissed. Clayton tells Jesse that she completely destroyed him. Susie's like, Clayton, can I get Jesse's number? I'm kidding. Susie walks out and Jesse is like, I'll leave you two alone. But if I was Jesse, I'd be like, I'd leave you two alone. Then I'd walk 5 feet away and just hang out behind a bush because it's pretty interesting. And I'm sure he's pretty bored in Iceland. And he's like, well, we don't have good cable in the trailer, so I'm going to actually watch this conversation unfold. Susie tells Clayton she should have probably had this conversation with him earlier on. No doy. Susie sort of turns it around on Clayton, saying there's no way this dude would compromise what we have. Clayton's still fighting for her. Brutal to watch because it's almost like he broke a rule he didn't know was in play. Clayton says he's not trying to place extra blame on her, but he doesn't know who he's even looking at right now. You dropped a bombshell on me. Clayton says, we're done. I'm done. I'm sorry I raised my voice. This is out of character. I really did love you. Anything you say to me doesn't matter anymore. I'm done. Wow. Clayton says, my heart is out. It's over. It's over. All right. So we have all that. That's a lot of information. We spoke about it for 2 full hours on last night's after episode live stream. We have a ton of voicemails. You guys can call in the voicemail line. I can't promise I'm going to get to everyone because we have a ton of voicemails. I'll play, you know what I'll do? I'll play one voicemail right now from someone who's Team Clayton and one voicemail from someone who is Team Susie here. So let's have a listen right here.
I'm calling from Jacksonville, Florida. I want to let everyone know I appreciate Susan for standing up and saying no and walking away. It hurts, and Susie, you are a strong woman, and I like you and I admire you forever. You represent all the strong women who say no to men. Thank you.
Great voicemail. Just a great voicemail. And here's one from the male perspective.
Hello, this call is coming from Maryland. I got a house full of women here. And they're all up in my business because I support him, and I believe he was in the right, and they all believe he was in the wrong, and I'm in big trouble here in Maryland.
What a two great voicemails. Thanks for the voicemails. We had about, 100 last night we played. If you have time to kill, go watch last night's live stream. It was wild. Well, here's my thoughts. Both handled it poorly. Susie handled it poorly because she didn't give him the ultimatum before he committed the crime, right? He didn't know what the rule book was. He should have probably had that conversation too, but ultimately if it's her ultimatum, she should have let him know that. Now, it was as far as Clayton's concerned, he never said he yelled. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, he yelled, he gaslit her and all these things. We need to be real careful. I don't need to get a decibel reader out. He definitely raised his voice and he did apologize for that. He was hurting. He was triggered. His greatest fears were unleashed there. But I refuse to throw out Clayton as like just a bad guy. He handled the situation poorly, and we don't know how high the stakes were for them, how much pressure, their headspace and all those things for both of them. For Clayton having the weight of the show on his shoulders, and for her being third. The one group of people we can say is definitely at fault here that no one ever talks about are the producers. They put her in an unwinnable situation by putting her third. Maybe she ruminated and didn't realize that it was a deal breaker until that point. Ideally, moving forward, if they could do this again, they'd have these conversations beforehand. And if he truly did love her, maybe he would have not or loved her the most, he would have not explored the situation with the other women, but he felt like all cards were on the table and this is how it works. Some people are saying this is a giant double standard because when Luke P was kind of shut down by Hannah Brown, everybody loved Hannah Brown. We'll have a separate video about that. We're going to have Caitlin Bristow's take because she defended Clayton. So it's hard to defend him at the very end, how cold he was, but what got him to that position, he had validity too. I'd love to know where your thoughts are. Definitely leave a comment. Call the voicemail line if you would like. And I'm actually going to be speaking with our friend Dr. Diane Strakowski later on today. We'll air that tomorrow, psychologist, and we're going to get into the thick of things on what actually may have gone down. All right, folks, I appreciate that you guys have been around this season. We have 2 more episodes next week. We're going to do a giant end of episode 4-hour live stream after next Tuesday's finale. And we'll have a live stream after Monday's finale, plus live streams beforehand. So tons of content coming your way. We'll talk to you then. If you need more content, go to the Dave Neal Show for non-Bachelor related material. And then you can go to patreon.com/Dave Neal to check out the private live streams. Bye, everybody.